The morning sun spilled golden light across the rolling fields outside Wall Rose, but the calm of the early hour was shattered by an unfamiliar tremor in the earth. It began subtly, a quiver beneath the boots of the scouts as they patrolled the perimeter. Birds scattered in panic, and villagers froze, eyes lifting to the sky as if sensing some silent omen. And then they saw him. High above the horizon, a lone figure descended, almost impossibly fast, breaking through the thin layer of clouds as if the sky itself had split open. Golden hair blazed like fire in the sunlight, catching every eye. His aura was unlike anything the scouts had encountered. There was no roar of a titan, no mechanical whirring of Marleyan weaponry, just an overwhelming presence that seemed to bend the air around him. Levi's sharp eyes narrowed, scanning the descent with a practiced wariness. "I've seen every kind of titan and devil the world can produce," he muttered, voice tight. "But this is something else." Historia, standing beside him, shared the sentiment, though her curiosity was tinged with caution. "Could it be a new kind of titan? One we haven't cataloged?" she asked. Her fingers fidgeted around the edge of her cloak. Eren, however, felt it in a way no one else could. The tremor of power pulsing from the figure was unfamiliar, alive, but not titan-like. It resonated deep within him, stirring something primal. His eyes sharpened. "It's not a titan. It's something else. Something stronger." The warrior finally landed in the valley below, with barely a sound, his boots brushing the earth, but barely leaving a mark. He stood, surveying the horizon with calm, piercing eyes. There was no arrogance, no overt hostility, yet the sheer magnitude of his power radiated outward like a gravitational pull. The ground seemed to recoil, small rocks skittering away from his feet, trees bending ever so slightly as if acknowledging a force beyond nature. The scouts approached cautiously, swords at the ready, their formation tight. Connie whispered to Jean, "Is he a titan in disguise?" Jean shook his head, unable to hide the awe in his voice. "I've seen a lot, but nothing like this." Levi stepped forward, crossing the open ground with calculated precision. He stopped a few meters from the figure, scanning every inch, every movement. "State your purpose," he demanded, voice cold and commanding. The silence that followed only amplified the tension, broken by a low, almost cheerful chuckle that seemed to carry across the valley. "I'm not here to fight, unless I have to," the figure said, voice calm, almost disarmingly casual. His gaze swept across the scouts, lingering for a heartbeat on Eren. "I'm just exploring." The word exploring did little to ease the scouts' unease. The concept of a human, if he truly was human, with strength far exceeding anything they had encountered, and yet walking among them with such casual poise, was inconceivable. Armin, ever the strategist, stepped closer to Eren and Levi. "He's unlike any threat we've faced. If he's a titan, he's evolved. If he's human, then we've underestimated the possibilities of power in this world." Eren's jaw clenched. He had always believed in humanity's struggle, in the fight against titans as the ultimate test of strength and will. And yet, this newcomer radiated power without the burdens of fear or survival that shaped every decision Eren had ever made. A part of him burned with the desire to measure himself against this being, to know if humanity could ever hope to contend with such a force. Levi's gaze hardened. "Keep your distance. Observe, but do not engage. Yet. I want to see if he acts before we make a move." The warrior shifted slightly, his hands loosening from a stance that hadn't even been aggressive. The air shimmered around him, as if acknowledging an energy that could level mountains if unleashed. And then, without warning, he leapt into the air, higher and faster than any scout could track. The clouds parted around him, and for a moment, the valley fell silent in awe. The ground trembled again, not gently this time, but in a wave that seemed to warn of what might come. Eren's eyes widened. He's testing, or signaling something. Levi's hand instinctively went to his blade, tension coiling like a spring. Historia gripped his arm. Whatever he's planning, it's big. And from that height, the golden-haired warrior looked down, surveying the walls, the villages, and the humans who dared stand before him. His calm, measured gaze carried a question unspoken, but louder than any roar. Do you understand the world you're living in, and the storm that's coming? The valley held its breath. Every Titan, every soldier, every innocent civilian seemed to sense that this arrival was more than an anomaly. Something monumental had entered their world, and in that fleeting moment, the question hung in the air like a blade. Could humanity survive the arrival of a being whose power defied their very understanding of reality? The tremor that had announced the stranger's arrival had barely faded, but the ripple it left across Wall Rose lingered like a warning. From the horizon, golden hair glinting in the sunlight, he moved with deliberate calm, landing beyond the walls in a quiet valley dotted with ruined trees and long-abandoned watchtowers. Unlike any Titan or soldier, his presence seemed almost alive in a different way. The air shimmered faintly around him, bending in subtle waves, carrying a quiet energy that made even hardened scouts pause mid-step. Levi crouched behind a ridge with Mikasa and a small contingent of scouts, his eyes scanning every motion. "I don't know what he is," Levi muttered, voice low, "but he's not a Titan. Not entirely. If he wants to, he could erase this wall in a heartbeat. Don't let him see hesitation." Armin's mind raced. He knelt beside Levi, notebook in hand, jotting details as fast as he could observe. Could he be some Marley experiment? A Titan infused with energy? Maybe something beyond their usual weapons, he whispered. His fingers trembled, though not with fear, anticipation. Or maybe he's not from this world at all. The thought made even the seasoned Levi pause. Humans had a fragile understanding of power, but this, whatever this was, did not obey any rule they had encountered. Not speed, not strength, not even the laws of gravity. From his vantage point, Levi could see the stranger moving among the scattered Titans in the valley below. He didn't attack. He didn't even approach aggressively. Yet, with each movement, the Titans reacted as if sensing something predatory but incomprehensible. Some recoiled slightly, stumbling over roots. Others froze mid-stride, heads jerking toward the figure, eyes wide. Levi frowned. Titans did not hesitate. They did not think. But this presence caused hesitation. Mikasa's gaze never wavered. "He's testing them," she said quietly. "Observing, measuring, like he's deciding if they're worth his attention." Armin's mind raced ahead. That level of control is unprecedented. He's not just powerful. He's analytical, tactical. He swallowed hard. And if he's assessing Titans like this, imagine what he's thinking about us. Meanwhile, Goku crouched, fingertips brushing the earth lightly as he surveyed the valley. Every detail, the uneven terrain, the placement of Titans, the crumbling remnants of old walls, was processed instinctively. His senses stretched further than human perception, feeling the pulse of the land, the heartbeat of life, the hidden tremors of the Titans. Yet he did not strike. He was learning, calculating, waiting. The scout's tension grew. The thought of challenging him, of testing their blades or their gear, flickered briefly in Levi's mind. But experience whispered caution. One wrong move, and everything could be destroyed in seconds. "Levi," Armin murmured, voice tense. "If we provoke him, even accidentally, we might not survive. Not because he's cruel, but because his power isn't compatible with anything we've ever faced." Levi didn't answer immediately. He studied the figure, noting the calm, almost casual posture. No signs of aggression, no malice. But in Levi's mind, the unpredictability was worse than any Titan attack. A human with this much potential, unbound by fear or logic, was a variable too dangerous to ignore. Then, a small tree snapped behind the stranger, not from his weight, not from his movement, but from the energy he radiated. Goku glanced at it, lifting a brow. The tremor passed through the valley like a ripple in water, and the nearest Titan, a hulking abomination near a broken wall, froze mid-step. Its head tilted unnaturally, teeth grinding. That energy? It's reacting to life itself, Armin breathed. He scribbled frantically. Every living thing in this valley, it's feeling him, and whatever he is, it's alive in a way we can't measure. Eren stepped forward, eyes narrowing. Then we fight him. If he's this powerful, we can't let him stand idly by. He could decide we're expendable at any second. Mikasa's glare silenced him. Eren, you don't know what you're dealing with. Levi's gaze swept the valley once more. The stranger Goku rose slightly onto his toes, as if testing gravity itself. The faint hum of energy around him began to intensify, small particles of dust and debris levitating, carried by an unseen force. The valley, once calm after the first tremor, now seemed to hold its breath. And then, the first real shock came. One Titan, the largest in the valley, a grotesque hulk with hardened skin, suddenly screamed. Not in pain, but in fear. Its movements became erratic. Another Titan followed, then another. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but the effect spread. The Titans were not attacking, but they were clearly aware, and their instincts were betraying them. Levi's hand hovered over his blade. Mikasa's grip tightened. Armin's notebook fell forgotten. Eren's fists clenched. The realization sank into each of them. They were no longer facing a threat they could measure, predict, or even fully comprehend. Goku crouched, looking over the valley, calm as ever, and yet the energy around him was building. Not chaotic, but inevitable. The scouts could sense it, even if they could not see it. Something had arrived in their world, something that could erase walls, titans, or humans alike in the blink of an eye. And yet, he did not move to strike, which meant they were still in the eye of a storm, waiting for a decision none could anticipate. The question hung over the valley like a blade. Was he here as a protector, or as the herald of destruction? The day's uneasy calm shattered like glass. From the edge of the forest near Wall Rose, a guttural roar echoed across the valley, a sound no human, no soldier could ignore. A lone Titan, massive even by standard measures, had wandered too close to the village, its grotesque, jagged form silhouetted against the morning sun. Villagers screamed, scattering in every direction, their panic a chorus that shook the nerves of the watching scouts. Eren's fists clenched instinctively. "I'll handle it," he snapped, taking off toward the threat. Mikasa and Levi were quick to follow, the scouts' blades gleaming in the sunlight. But before they could reach the Titan, a sudden blur of motion cut through the air. Goku appeared in the space between the villagers and the Titan almost instantaneously, his hand extended outward, not to strike violently, but to sweep the villagers clear of harm with a subtle gust of energy. They stumbled and fell, unharmed, as he pivoted, dodging debris that the Titan's massive hand sent flying. The scouts froze, breath caught in their throats. Armin's notebook tumbled from his hands as he watched the golden-haired figure. He didn't even touch the Titan, and yet he's moving faster than the scouts' gas-powered maneuvering gear. Faster than anything we've ever seen. Levi's eyes narrowed, suspicion sharpening into calculation. He's testing the situation. That speed, it's not just reflex. He's reading it, predicting it. The Titan swung violently, its hand crashing into the ground mere meters from Goku. The impact cracked stone and sent dust and shards flying in all directions. But Goku moved with fluid precision, not brute force. He redirected the Titan's momentum subtly, using the creature's own swing to unbalance it, guiding it away from the fleeing villagers without making direct contact. Eren's frustration flared. He had fought Titans, risked his life countless times, And yet this stranger was saving civilians with movements so effortless it made human skill seem trivial. Why him? Why always someone else? Eren muttered, teeth clenched. The fire of competition, of being overshadowed, burned hot in his chest. He felt powerless in a way he had never experienced, and it gnawed at his pride. Mikasa placed a firm hand on his shoulder, her gaze unwavering. It doesn't matter who does it. People are alive because he acted. But Eren's eyes stayed locked on Goku. He's not human, not really, and he doesn't even seem worried about the danger. The Titan, confused and disoriented, roared again, swinging its massive limbs in desperation. Dust choked the air, and a cloud of debris masked the battlefield. Yet Goku's movements remained precise. With a series of leaps and subtle pushes, he guided the Titan toward an abandoned canyon, where it became trapped by natural rock formations. At no point had he raised a hand to crush it. At no point had he revealed the full extent of his strength. Armin finally found his voice. He's restraining himself. He could destroy that thing in one strike, and he knows it. But he's choosing not to. He's disciplined. Careful. Levi's lips pressed into a thin line. Discipline or not, we can't assume restraint will last forever. And if he decides to fight seriously, his gaze darkened. We're done for. The villagers, still trembling, slowly gathered behind walls and rubble, staring at the strange warrior. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared, wide-eyed, at a man who had moved faster than death itself, and yet seemed impossibly calm. Eren stepped forward again, fists balling at his sides. He's too fast, too strong. If he's helping now, what happens if he doesn't want to? Goku, noticing the tension, finally turned his gaze toward Eren. His expression was calm, almost curious, as if he could see the question forming in the boy's mind. "Don't worry," he said, voice carrying easily across the clearing. "I don't want to hurt anyone, unless I have to." Eren's jaw tightened. The reassurance did nothing to quell the unease that churned inside him. This stranger, so powerful, so alien, had single-handedly averted a disaster. Yet the shadow of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Armin whispered to Mikasa, barely audible, "We've just seen the surface. If this is the level he's showing now, what is he capable of if he decides to fight seriously?" The Titan, still trapped and confused, roared one final time before collapsing awkwardly against the canyon walls, trembling in both frustration and fear. Its massive eyes, clouded with instinct and confusion, seemed almost aware. And then the moment of stillness fell. Goku stood alone in the clearing, dust swirling at his feet. The villagers looked at him as if he were a deity descended from their clouds. Yet the scouts knew better. They knew that power like this carried consequences. Eren's fists remained clenched, his frustration now mingled with a dark curiosity. He wanted answers, and the answers were not coming. Not yet. And somewhere deep within the valley, the air itself seemed to hum with the warning of something greater. This was only the beginning, and soon the question would not be whether he was friend or foe, but whether anyone in this world could survive his presence. The ground trembled again, this time with a rhythm far heavier, far more deliberate. Beyond Wall Rose, enormous shapes emerged from the horizon. Wall Titans, the colossal sentinels embedded within the walls, moving with an eerie, deliberate cadence. Their eyes, if they had any, glimmered with the remnants of the minds that had created them, and every step sent shockwaves through the valley. Goku's golden hair caught the sun as he floated a few meters above the ground, watching them closely. Unlike the previous encounter with a lone Titan, these were massive, true forces of nature, relics of human ambition turned into unstoppable guardians. His fists tightened slightly, instinct whispering that power alone would end the threat in moments. But instinct also told him to hold back. There was a lesson here, a test to be measured. Levi observed from the ridge, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. So he fights carefully, Deliberately, Levi muttered under his breath. His eyes, sharp and calculating, followed every subtle movement. Even knowing the scale, he's restraining himself. That's unusual. It's almost as if he's questioning the morality of destruction. The first wall titan stepped forward, its massive form eclipsing the valley in shadow. Its arms swung with incredible force, tearing through ruined structures as if they were paper. Villagers who had not yet retreated scrambled in panic, but Goku moved with precision. In a blink, he was before the Titan, sidestepping a swing that could have crushed a small building. He tapped its arm lightly, not enough to destroy, only to redirect it. The motion caused the Titan to stumble slightly, off balance, while the surrounding ground shuddered under its weight. It roared, a sound that echoed like thunder, shaking the walls themselves. Levi's gaze sharpened. He's using their weight, their momentum against them. Not brute force, technique, efficiency over power. Goku's brow furrowed. A part of him itched to unleash everything he had, to end the threat instantly. Yet another part, the part that had learned from battles across worlds, reminded him of the delicate balance here. Collateral damage could mean thousands of lives. He was a god among humans. But here, every action carried consequences beyond sheer destruction. The second Titan approached, larger than the first, its movement slow but unstoppable. Goku leapt skyward, dodging the first Titan's swing and using the momentum to intercept the second midair. He grabbed one of its massive arms, using his own strength to pull it slightly off course, and dropped it to the ground with a controlled thud, careful to avoid crushing nearby terrain or civilians. Armin, watching with wide eyes from the ridge, scribbled furiously. The scale of his control, it's insane. He's not even breaking a sweat, and yet he's restraining himself. He could obliterate them, and maybe the walls too. His voice trailed off as awe battled with the fear. Eren's fists clenched, rage boiling inside him. Why him? Why always someone else? We're supposed to fight for humanity, and yet he's rewriting the rules without even trying. Mikasa's hand tightened around her sword, her gaze locked on Goku. Eren, watch and learn. Not everyone fights recklessly. Not everyone needs to risk their life to be effective. Meanwhile, Goku's eyes flickered toward the remaining Titans. Each one was a puzzle. Its weight, its center of gravity, its momentum. He anticipated each swing, each stomp, adjusting the battlefield with subtle taps, jumps, and redirects. Dust clouds rose around him, but no devastation beyond what was necessary to keep the Titans from reaching the villages. Levi's voice, calm but edged with tension, cut through the air. He's struggling with restraint, that instinct to destroy everything. He's fighting it. The ground quaked once more as a Titan swung its colossal hand at Goku. Instead of dodging entirely, he caught it midair, their contact creating a shockwave that sent smaller debris flying. The scouts flinched as the sheer force pressed against reality itself, but still, no full power was unleashed. Armin whispered in disbelief. He's holding back, consciously holding back. Even when he could end this in seconds, he's choosing not to. Why? Goku's expression was calm, almost meditative. He understood the scale of power in his hands, and yet he also understood the cost of its release. Every strike, every movement could change the lives of thousands. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that showing too much now could provoke fear, panic, or even hostility from humans who could not fathom what they were seeing. The first Titan, now off balance and staggering, roared again, this time in frustration. Its attempts to strike were clumsy, confused, almost instinctive. And yet for the humans watching, the sheer scale of what was happening was terrifying. Even restrained, Goku was a god among mortals, a force they could not hope to match. Eren's jaw clenched. We can't fight him. Not like this, he's beyond us. Levi's eyes, sharp as ever, scanned the valley, calculating, always calculating. If he loses control, or if he decides to attack seriously. None of this will matter. Humanity's survival, the walls, all of it could end in minutes. Goku, standing amidst the chaos of colossal titans stumbling, dust rising, and the valley trembling, looked toward the scouts. His calm gaze seemed to ask a silent question. Can you survive what you cannot match? The answer, for everyone watching, remained uncertain. And somewhere beyond the walls, the winds carried a whisper, a prelude to a storm far larger than the valley could contain. The valley was quiet for a fleeting heartbeat. Dust still swirled from Goku's restrained clash with the wall titans, and the ground vibrated faintly beneath the scouts' boots. Yet, the unease was far from over. Now it was human curiosity, fear, and suspicion that took center stage. Levi led the way, his boots barely making a sound on the dirt. His eyes, sharp as steel, never left Goku. We need answers, he muttered to Mikasa and Armin, before anyone dies because of assumptions. Goku stood a few meters away, relaxed, arms crossed loosely, observing the scouts as if studying their movements. His gaze carried neither hostility nor fear, only interest and the faintest trace of amusement. State your name and purpose, Levi demanded, his voice cold and unyielding. Are you a threat or an ally? Because we won't risk anything until we know. Goku tilted his head slightly, the breeze catching the edges of his golden hair. I'm Goku, he said simply, voice calm, almost casual. I don't want to fight anyone here. I'm exploring. Armin took a step forward, notebook in hand, struggling to reconcile logic with instinct. Exploring? In a world overrun by titans? You realize how dangerous that is, right? One wrong move. He broke off, realizing even his words could not capture the scale of Goku's potential. Mikasa's gaze hardened. You think words matter to someone like him? Levi, be ready. Levi gave a short nod, his hand subtly shifting toward his blade. But before he could take another step, he tested the stranger. In the blink of an eye, Levi darted forward, launching a precision strike toward Goku's side. Fast, silent, lethal. Goku barely moved, not out of fear, but out of instinct and control. He sidestepped with ease, almost lazily, and the blade barely grazed his arm, leaving a small scratch at most. The air around him shimmered faintly, bending with the force of the near miss. Levi froze mid-step, surprise flickering across his expression. He's fast, faster than I can track, and he didn't even flinch. Not really. Goku smiled lightly. You're strong, he said, almost teasingly. But I can feel your intent. You wanted to see if I'd fight. I understand. Armin, scribbling frantically, whispered to Mikasa. He's reading Levi. He's analyzing, not just physically, mentally, tactically. He knows exactly what Levi's thinking. Mikasa's grip tightened on her sword, eyes narrowing. And if he decides you're a threat? She asked softly. Levi's gaze remained locked on Goku. Then we'll deal with it. But I need to see what he's capable of, and if he can be trusted. Eren stepped forward, fists clenched, frustration and jealousy simmering beneath the surface. You're all just standing there. We've risked our lives against titans, against the world, and now some stranger shows up and overshadows everything we do. His voice cracked with intensity. I don't care if he's strong. He doesn't decide what happens to humanity. Goku's expression softened slightly as he looked at Eren. I'm not trying to overshadow anyone, he said. I just don't want to hurt anyone. But I'll fight if it's necessary. To protect. The tension escalated. Armin's voice rose in protest. But can we trust him? He moves like a god among men. One mistake, intentional or not, and the consequences are unimaginable. Levi stepped closer to Goku, eyes sharp, muscles coiled. You say you won't hurt anyone, but we've seen your speed, your strength. I need to know your limits. Right now. Goku nodded slowly. Then test me. Carefully. But know that I won't hold back if someone attacks innocents. Without further warning, Levi lunged again, this time combining his maneuvering gear with a rapid aerial strike. Goku moved, faster than any human could perceive, catching Levi's momentum mid-air and gently redirecting him onto the ground. The scout's collective gasp cut through the valley, a mixture of awe and fear. Armin whispered under his breath, notebook forgotten. He's not even trying to hurt Levi, but he could, any second. He's holding back so deliberately, it's almost painful to watch. Mikasa's eyes never left him. That's the problem. We don't know how long he can or will hold back. Eren's fists trembled. I can't stand watching this. He's too perfect, too strong. He doesn't fight like us. He fights like a god. The golden-haired warrior looked over the scouts, energy humming faintly around him, calm and poised. Dust swirled at his feet, leaves trembled in the breeze, and the valley seemed to exhale in anticipation. And then Goku spoke, his voice carrying across the clearing with a weight that demanded attention. I'm not your enemy, but you need to understand this world is fragile. One wrong move from anyone here, and it won't just be the Titans that are lost. The scouts froze. Every instinct screamed caution. Every thought wrestled with curiosity. The truth was undeniable. They were facing a being who could end the threat or obliterate everything without breaking a sweat. And the looming question hung over them, heavier than any blade. Would humanity see him as a savior or a new threat? News traveled faster than the wind. By the time dusk draped its violet cloak over Walrose, the first whispers of the golden-haired warrior had reached ears far beyond the island's borders. Merchants, traders, and wandering scouts spoke of a being whose power dwarfed even the Titans, whose presence bent the very air. By the time the information crossed the ocean, it had grown into a legend, a figure capable of moving faster than the eye could follow, capable of saving a village from certain death without striking a single lethal blow. In Marley, the council chambers buzzed with tension. Reiner Brown paced along the polished floor, his Titan armor resting on a stand nearby. You're telling me there's a human out there with power on par with the Titans themselves? He growled, voice laced with disbelief. Zeke Yeager leaned against the window, eyes narrowing. Not just on par, Reiner. Far beyond anything we've seen. If what they say is true, this isn't a Titan at all. It's something else. Something we can't control. Reiner slammed his fist onto the table. We can't ignore this. If he's on Paradis, humanity inside the walls has just gained a new weapon, or a new threat. And if he leaves, who knows what he could do in the rest of the world? Zeke's expression was contemplative, cold as steel. That's the dilemma. We could try to recruit him, but can you imagine trying to control someone like that? He doesn't answer to anyone. We could attack, but that's reckless. Or we could retreat, wait, and hope he never notices us. None of these options are safe. The room fell silent. Marley's leadership understood the implications. This wasn't just a new soldier or weapon. It was a force capable of rewriting the balance of power. One mistake, one misjudgment, and the delicate global equilibrium could collapse. Meanwhile, back within the walls, Eren's obsession grew. He could no longer focus solely on Titans, on Marley, or on the struggles of his people. Every thought returned to the warrior who had entered their world. His mind raced with questions. What was his true power? Could he be trusted? And if left unchecked, what could he become? Why him? Eren muttered, pacing the courtyard. Mikasa and Armin trailed behind, watching silently. He's not one of us, but he fights better than anyone. He's faster, stronger, smarter even. Armin's voice was hesitant, but measured. Eren, maybe that's exactly why we need him. But we can't just assume that. We barely understand his intentions. Mikasa's gaze was steady, cutting through the tension. intentions or not, the moment he acts without warning, humans will die. You can't let fascination blind you. The night grew deeper, and whispers of Goku's feats spread beyond Paradis. In distant lands, soldiers and politicians debated the ramifications. Marley's military strategists ran simulations, trying to quantify what could not be measured. Every calculation ended in uncertainty. Every plan faltered against the unknown. Zeke finally spoke, his voice low and decisive. We need intelligence first. We need to understand his limits, his motives. A direct attack is suicidal, and recruitment is unlikely. Observation. That's all we can do for now. Reiner shook his head, frustration mounting. Observation won't save anyone if he decides to act. What if he chooses his own battles? What if he sees us as a threat? Or worse? A messenger burst into the chamber, face pale, hands trembling. The villagers at Wall rose. They say he fights titans like they're toys. He didn't destroy the village, but the sheer energy. It's like nothing we've seen. The soldiers can't even keep up with him. Zeke's lips curled into a faint, unreadable smile. Then we watch, and we wait. The question is not if the world will react, but how, and what we do when it does. Back within Wall Rose, Eren's resolve hardened. He could feel the weight of the outside world pressing down, sensing Marley's unease and fear. But even as he contemplated the implications, one thought consumed him more than any strategy or political intrigue. If he could harness, or even just understand, Goku's power, the tides of war could shift forever. But at what cost? And far across the ocean, in Marley's fortified halls, Reiner and Zeke shared a grim understanding. The world was about to face a force that could not be contained, and every choice they made could either protect humanity or doom it entirely. The valley lay in an uneasy hush. Dust settled slowly over broken stone and shattered timber, the remnants of the earlier Titan clashes, whispering of chaos narrowly avoided. For most of humanity, fear still clung like a second skin, but for a select few, opportunity and curiosity began to bloom. The presence of Goku, a being whose strength dwarfed even the Wall Titans, was too immense to ignore, and some saw in him not a threat, but a potential ally. Armin, perched on the ridge alongside Historia, scanned the valley with meticulous attention. The golden-haired warrior had already demonstrated an ability to restrain himself, to limit devastation while still neutralizing threats. That fact alone made him both terrifying and invaluable. We can't just ignore him, Armin murmured. There are humans, and maybe even certain titans, who might cooperate if approached correctly. But we have to be careful. One wrong word, one misstep, and he could destroy everything unintentionally. Historia nodded thoughtfully. If he's truly not hostile, diplomacy might be our only chance. If we can coordinate, maybe we can influence him to act in our favor, at least temporarily. Their conversation was interrupted by a subtle movement in the shadows. A group of smaller titans, ones whose instincts had long been tempered by familiarity with human presence, began to shift in Goku's direction. They did not attack. Instead, they guided him away from precarious structures, subtly nudging him toward open terrain where his incredible speed and reflexes could operate without endangering civilians. Armin's eyes widened. They're helping him. I can't believe it. But why? Historia's gaze followed the Titans carefully. They must sense something different, something beyond instinct. Perhaps they recognize a presence that is neither fully human nor fully Titan, but powerful in a way they respect. Meanwhile, Lavi remained detached on his observation post. His expression was unreadable, eyes sharp beneath his brows. Respect or no, we cannot trust him, he muttered to himself. We test him, always. Power this immense, and he doesn't answer to anyone. He cannot be allowed to run unchecked. True to his instincts, Levi readied a small contingent for a controlled engagement, intending to gauge Goku's limits. He knew the man could destroy them all without effort, but even the smallest signs of restraint, the faintest indication of tactical reasoning, had to be measured. Down below, Goku sensed the subtle shifts in behavior around him. The smaller Titans, the cautious humans, even the scouts' movements. All of it registered instinctively. He did not misunderstand their intent. Some were testing him, probing the boundaries of his strength, while others offered help without expectation. He acknowledged them with a nod, careful to keep his power restrained, mindful of the delicate balance of trust forming in the valley. Armin turned to Historia. If we can coordinate, we might be able to guide him, but it's risky. Levi will oppose any approach that seems too trusting, and even if we manage, how long before human ego, Eren for instance, interferes? Historia's expression hardened slightly. We proceed carefully. One wrong choice and we may lose him, or worse, provoke a disaster no human can survive. Eren, who had been pacing anxiously, finally spoke, frustration bleeding into his voice. I don't trust him, and I don't like watching him maneuver like a god among mortals. We fight, we struggle, we bleed. And he just stands there, deciding who lives and who dies. Mikasa stepped forward, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. Eren, stop thinking like that. There are no absolutes here. Right now, we observe, we calculate, and we adapt. He's not here to play by our rules, but that doesn't make him the enemy. Yet. Levi's voice cut through the tension like a blade. This isn't about trust. It's about survival. If anyone tries to manipulate him, humans or Titans alike, we see the consequences instantly. We test, we observe, we survive. And yet, in the quiet underbrush, subtle signs hinted at cooperation that Levi could not control. Titans shifted slightly to open paths. Humans supplied information discreetly, and Goku, ever perceptive, responded in kind, avoiding the destruction of terrain, sparing villagers, and using calculated, measured power. The valley became a chessboard of tentative alliances and cautious calculations, each participant acutely aware of the stakes. Even the smallest decision, an unguarded glance, a misread intention, could tip the balance. As night fell, a cold wind carried whispers across the valley. Who will betray this stranger, wielding godlike power? And who will find themselves bound by an alliance that could decide the fate of Paradis itself? The question lingered over every shadow, every movement, every heartbeat, and none could answer with certainty. Dawn broke over the shattered fields near Wall Rose, illuminating the aftermath of previous encounters. Dust still clung to the air, and the scent of scorched earth lingered where Goku had restrained Titans without unleashing full power. But today was different. Today, the world pushed back. From the horizon, a new threat emerged. Titans unlike any he had faced before. Their forms were distorted, resistant, almost unnatural, as if they had evolved, or been altered, to withstand force that would obliterate ordinary Titans. Goku's eyes narrowed, sensing something beyond raw strength. Every strike he delivered, every push and redirect, seemed to only slow them for a moment. Standard attacks, the speed, the strength, even calculated precision, no longer ensured victory. Eren watched in disbelief from the ridge, anger and fascination mixing into a potent storm. "Why are you holding back?" he shouted. "You could crush them all. Just finish this." Goku landed softly, eyes scanning the resistant Titans. "I can't," he replied evenly, tone calm but firm. "These creatures, they're not just physical threats. They're designed to resist raw power. I have to adapt, or I'll cause more destruction than I prevent." Eren's frustration boiled over. Adapt? We fight, we struggle, we bleed, and you just float above us, deciding how and when to use your strength. This is a battlefield. You're either with us or you're not. Goku's expression remained neutral, but his voice carried weight. I'm with you, but strength isn't always the answer. Sometimes, ingenuity, strategy, and timing matter more than power. You need to see that. Levi, observing from a nearby ridge, shifted uncomfortably. Even he could feel the pressure of Goku's presence, a being who could end the conflict in seconds, yet chose to play by rules that humans barely understood. The moral implications weighed heavily. If Goku acted without restraint, the valley, perhaps the entire human settlement, could be leveled in moments. The resistant Titans advanced, their stomps shaking the ground, each step more calculated than instinctual. Goku leapt into action, his speed blurring the air, but his fists struck differently now. Instead of relying solely on brute force, he used the environment, the cliffs, boulders, and even the Titans' momentum, redirecting energy to destabilize them without outright destruction. Armin, watching from the ridge, scribbled furiously. He's changing his approach. He's not relying on power. He's thinking like a strategist, like a human. One Titan lunged, massive arms swinging in a calculated attack. Goku caught the blow mid-air, energy crackling faintly as he adjusted the trajectory of the strike, redirecting it into a canyon wall rather than toward the village. Dust exploded in clouds. Debris flew in all directions, yet no humans were harmed. Eren's fists tightened, his anger now mixed with desperation. You can do more. Why aren't you just destroying them? Why play this game? Goku met his gaze evenly. Because there's a line between victory and annihilation. If I destroy everything I touch, then I've become what I fight against. Strength without control is meaningless. Eren's jaw tightened, frustration warring with admiration. He had never encountered anyone or anything so powerful, yet so measured. You don't understand. In our world, survival sometimes demands overwhelming force. You can't just hold back forever. Goku paused, hovering midair, energy faintly shimmering around him. He understood the boy's perspective. He had been in countless battles across worlds where decisive force mattered. But here, in Paradis, the rules were different. Every action carried ripple effects far beyond immediate consequences. One miscalculation could ignite conflict with humans, with Titans, even with the outside world. Levi's voice, cutting like a blade from the ridge, broke the tension. Adapt. That's what humans do. If you can't rely on raw strength, then you either learn or you fail. And that struck Goku. For the first time since arriving, the frustration gnawed at him. Not at the world, not at the resistance, but at himself. The Saiyan warrior who had faced gods, monsters, and entire armies, realized that power alone could not solve every problem. He had to rethink, recalibrate, and learn. The resistant Titans pressed closer, each step deliberate, calculated, and unnervingly intelligent. Goku's eyes flickered with determination, the familiar thrill of challenge igniting deep within him. This world would not bend immediately to his will. He had to evolve his approach, respect the limits imposed not by opponents, but by the rules of survival, morality, and restraint. And in the shadow of the advancing Titans, a question loomed over the battlefield, echoing through every trembling valley, every heartbeat of the human soldiers, and even through the Saiyan himself. Can Goku adapt to a world that resists instant domination? Or will the lessons he must learn come at a cost humanity cannot afford? The world beyond the walls was awakening to a storm it could barely comprehend. Reports trickled in from merchants, scouts, and spies, whispers of a warrior whose power eclipsed even the mightiest Titans. In Marley, the council chambers were tense, voices sharp, and debate heated. The name Goku had become both a warning and a puzzle. Ener leaned forward across the polished table, face shadowed with concern. We cannot treat this as a simple Titan problem, he said, voice low but urgent. If the humans within the walls have even partial access to him, the balance of power shifts entirely. We need to act, but how? Zeke's expression was a mask of calculation. Acting recklessly is suicide. Attacking blindly could provoke a catastrophe we cannot contain. At the same time, inaction invites chaos. We must observe, gather intelligence, and understand him first. A political advisor interjected, his tone trembling. But what if he is already acting? What if he chooses sides, or worse, decides the world itself is the battlefield? Our troops cannot match him. Even the Warhammer or Beast Titans would be insignificant against this kind of power. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Paradis was no less conflicted. Armin convened with Historia and select members of the Scout Regiment, outlining potential strategies. We've seen him fight, and he restrains himself. But the question remains, how long can that restraint last? And if he leaves, what happens when the world learns of him? Mikasa's eyes were sharp. We cannot rely on him blindly. Our priority has to be human lives. If he decides we're expendable, all our careful planning will mean nothing. Eren, pacing like a caged predator, slammed a fist into the ground. We're dancing around the obvious. He's here, stronger than anything we've faced, and we're talking strategy like he's just another soldier. We could use him, or fight him, but we need to understand him, and fast. Goku, distant from human politics, continued his silent exploration. He observed the Titans, measured his interventions, and considered the humans' reactions. To him, the world was a puzzle of intention, morality, and survival, an unpredictable battlefield that could not be dominated by raw strength alone. Back in Marley, tension reached its peak. Leaders debated espionage, sending agents to infiltrate Paradis under the guise of diplomacy. Some argued for attempts to recruit or coerce Goku, while others insisted the safest course was total avoidance until more was known. Every plan, every contingency, seemed to bend under the weight of a single truth. Goku was not just another combatant. He was an entirely new variable, impossible to fully control. Reiner and Zeke locked eyes, the gravity of the situation settling over them like a heavy cloak. "Do we try to manipulate him?" Reiner asked, voice tight. "Or do we prepare for a world where no one, human or Titan, holds the advantage?" "Neither approach is safe," Zeke replied calmly. "We are at the mercy of a force beyond comprehension. And the question is not if he acts, but when." Paradis, too, felt the tremors of uncertainty. The Scout's interactions with Goku had created a fragile web of trust, but that trust was tenuous, dependent on observation, restraint, and subtle negotiation. Every human decision, every whispered plan carried risk. Could they guide this force without being consumed by it? Eren's obsession grew with each passing hour. He shadowed Goku, watched his maneuvers, and tried to anticipate his intentions. Yet every insight revealed only the edge of a larger puzzle. Goku was unpredictable, not reckless, but entirely unconcerned with human pride or fear. His actions were measured, but his morality and perspective were alien, untethered from the wall's rules. Even among the Titans, unease spread. Some seemed to sense the shifts in human strategies, adjusting movements subtly, almost instinctively. This world was alive with tension, each side probing, calculating, and reacting to a variable they could not control. The night deepened, and across the lands, the same thought echoed quietly in every mind attuned to the threat. Who truly controls the battlefield? The humans, the Titans, or Goku himself? Every political maneuver, every calculated move, now hinged on a force that could obliterate expectations with a single strike. And in the shadows, leaders on both sides realized an unsettling truth. Power alone no longer dictated survival. Influence, timing, and morality would decide whether humanity endured or collapsed under the weight of a godlike presence. The question remained unanswered, hanging like a storm cloud over every decision. When Goku acts, which side of history will tremble first? The horizon trembled with tension as dawn broke, painting the valley in hues of gold and gray. Goku stood at the edge of the open plains outside Walrose, his senses alert, energy subtly humming around him. He had already faced Titans resistant to his standard attacks, forcing him to adjust his tactics. But today, something new approached, a force crafted by human ingenuity, born not of brute strength, but of strategy honed over generations of war. From the distant hills, Marley's forces emerged, a precision strike unlike anything Paradis had seen. Anti-Titan weapons glinted in the sunlight, mechanical contraptions designed to pierce and restrain beings larger than buildings. Gunpowder exploded in small bursts, timing and trajectory calculated to slow Titans, but now aimed at a Saiyan. Goku's brow furrowed. Interesting, he murmured. His fists clenched lightly, energy flaring just enough to sense the threat without unleashing devastation. These were humans, armed with machines shaped by centuries of fighting Titans, and yet, somehow, they represented a real challenge. Not in sheer power, but in adaptability. Eren, observing from the ridge alongside Mikasa and Armin, clenched his teeth. They're actually trying to fight him. And it works? He shook his head in disbelief. Goku's strong, but they're slowing him. Just a little. But it's something we've never seen. Titans, or humans. Levi's expression was unreadable, but a flicker of unease passed through his eyes. So humans can influence him, he muttered. It's not brute strength alone. Precision, timing, intelligence. That's the only way to even touch a being like him. As Marley's troops advanced, Goku adapted quickly. His body moved with a fluid grace, faster than the eye could track, yet he restrained his power. He dodged and redirected, leaping over volleys of explosive projectiles, redirecting kinetic energy to minimize collateral damage. Every movement was calculated, a dance of precision and restraint, revealing a surprising humility in combat. He could end this in an instant, but he chose not to. Soldiers fired again, changing formations, anticipating his path. They moved as if guided by instinct honed from decades of fighting Titans. A volley to slow, a trap to redirect, a wall to channel movement. And yet, Goku's energy pulses brushed past, barely disturbing the formations. But each near miss taught him something. Eren's frustration burned. I can't do anything. None of our attacks can reach him. Even the Titans are useless. Why does he hold back when he could crush them? Mikasa's eyes were sharp, scanning the battlefield. Because that's not his way, Eren. He's testing, adapting, learning. And we should too. Observe him, learn his limits. Not just assume he's unstoppable. The first hints of golden energy flickered across Goku's aura. A subtle pulse, almost imperceptible, but enough to send Marley's engineers scrambling. Their most advanced Titan-slaying gear, a mix of grappling hooks, blade projectiles, and anti-Titan artillery, was being challenged by raw energy beyond any calculation. Goku's eyes focused, measuring resistance. So humans can adapt, even against me, he muttered aloud. Interesting. That's more fun than I expected. His calm tone masked an intense awareness. This was a world where raw power alone could not guarantee victory. A world where strategy, intelligence, and adaptation mattered as much as strength. From the ridges, Levi narrowed his eyes. He understood the stakes more clearly than anyone. This is what we've been training for, he said quietly. Even if Goku can level mountains, it's human innovation that can shape the battlefield. If we're smart enough to use it. Armin scribbled notes furiously, absorbing every observation. We can't beat him with brute force, but perhaps we can influence him, guide him, or even predict him. If we combine our knowledge with his restraint, there might be a way to survive. To control the chaos. Eren's jaw tightened. I don't like it. I don't trust any of this. He's a god, and we're tinkering around with toys while he decides who lives and dies. Suddenly, a volley of experimental anti-Titan weapons collided mid-air with Goku's aura. The golden energy flared, illuminating the valley, the air vibrating with the force of contained destruction. Soldiers were thrown backward by shockwaves. Titans staggered, and Goku landed, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "So humans can challenge me," he said softly, smiling faintly. "Not fully, but enough to make me think. That's rare." And as the dust settled, a chilling realization spread among both the humans and Titans. Even against a being beyond imagination, human ingenuity could shape the battlefield. But would it be enough to survive the awakening of a Saiyan's true power? The valley fell silent, save for the faint hum of energy still lingering in the air. All eyes turned to Goku, waiting for the next move. And for the first time, the question was not just who would survive, but how the rules of war themselves would bend in the face of a force beyond calculation. The valley was quiet now, but tension still hung heavy in the air, thicker than any dust cloud. Goku had retreated to a rocky plateau, crouching lightly on a boulder, his golden aura faintly pulsing in the morning light. He observed the human scouts, their expressions a mixture of awe, fear, and determination. Eren, standing rigid across the plateau, clenched his fists, his eyes burning with the familiar fire of righteous defiance. "Tell me," Goku began, voice calm yet carrying the weight of scrutiny, "why do you fight like this? You throw yourselves into death and destruction as if it's the only way to survive. You fight, kill, and hate, and the cycle never ends." Eren's jaw tightened. "Because that's the only way to live free. You wouldn't understand. We've been trapped, oppressed, hunted, and forced to fight every day of our lives. Freedom isn't given. It's taken. Through struggle, through blood, through sacrifice." Armin stepped forward, his eyes scanning both Goku and Eren. "But at what cost, Eren? Countless lives, endless fear. Even if we survive, what have we truly won if the cycle just repeats?" Goku tilted his head, golden hair catching the first rays of sunlight. "I've seen war. I've fought enemies stronger than gods, armies larger than cities. But even in the toughest battles, there is always another way. Destruction is easy. The harder path is protecting without annihilating." Eren's voice rose, echoing off the cliffs. "Easy. Do you call living under fear easy? We've endured years of Titans slaughtering our families, walls closing in, enemies plotting our extinction. You think it's simple to turn away from that?" Mikasa stepped between them, voice steady but filled with tension. "Eren, you're letting anger blind you. Goku isn't your enemy, but he represents something you've never faced. Power without instinctive hatred, and that scares you." Goku's eyes softened, looking past Eren at the cliffside, at the forests, at the shattered remnants of villages below. "I am not your enemy," he said gently, "but I cannot allow you to continue this endless cycle. Fighting is natural, yes, but fighting without learning, without understanding, without restraint, that is what truly destroys a world." Eren's hands shook, his fists, trembling with the force of his conviction, were mirrors of his inner turmoil. "You don't get it. Humanity cannot survive without struggle. Titans, Marley. The world will never forgive us. Peace can't exist without strength to enforce it. You may have power, but that won't save anyone here." Armin stepped closer to Goku, whispering but audible. "He's right in part. The world we live in doesn't respond to ideals alone. Yet perhaps your approach, the restraint, the balance, is the first step towards something they've never had a chance to learn." Levi, observing silently from a nearby ridge, remained cold and calculating. His eyes, sharp as blades, assessed both sides. He understood the stakes better than anyone, an ideological clash between raw, unrestrained conviction and the tempered wisdom of someone who had transcended war itself. And in that clash, lay the seeds of either salvation or catastrophe. Goku rose to his full height, energy faintly rippling around him. I've fought countless beings who think like you, Eren. They cling to revenge, power, hatred, and they fall into ruin. I will not allow this world to repeat the same mistakes. I will not fight you. Yet. But I cannot stand by while you choose destruction as your only path. Eren's eyes blazed. Frustration, anger, and a strange flicker of respect all colliding. Then maybe we're already at a point where we have to fight. Not to survive you, but to survive ourselves. Because the world doesn't care about ideals. It only responds to strength. Goku's energy flared subtly, a warning not aimed at aggression, but at awareness. The wind picked up, carrying dust and the faint scent of ozone, as the tension between them thickened into something palpable. Armin swallowed, sensing the subtle shift. If they clash, it won't just be a fight of fists. It'll be a clash of philosophies, and one of them may not survive, physically or morally. Mikasa placed a hand on Eren's shoulder, her voice steady, but firm. Think carefully, Eren. This isn't just about survival. It's about what kind of future you want. And right now, the wrong choice could destroy everything. Goku's gaze softened slightly, his aura settling into a calm, golden glow. I do not wish to fight you, Eren, but ideals can be as dangerous as titans if left unchecked. You must learn, through struggle, yes, but also through understanding, what truly protects the people you care about. The plateau fell silent, charged with the electricity of potential conflict. Every human present, every titan within sight, even the whispers of the world beyond the walls, seemed to hold its breath. And as the tension stretched across the valley, a chilling thought formed in everyone's mind. If these conflicting ideals erupt into action, who will survive? And will humanity itself endure a confrontation between raw conviction and godlike restraint? The sun dipped low over the shattered plains outside Wall Rose, casting long shadows across the ruins of a village recently evacuated. Smoke curled from collapsed rooftops, the faint scent of ash and metal mingling in the air. Goku hovered above the ground, golden hair flickering with barely restrained energy, his eyes narrowing as a colossal form emerged in the distance. It was unlike any Titan he had faced before. Towering higher than the surrounding cliffs, its body shimmered with unnatural strength and cunning. The Warhammer Titan's crystalline armor glimmered like polished obsidian, yet there was something more, an aura that pulsed with an almost ethereal resonance, a faint echo of the founding Titan's power. Its every movement seemed calculated, a perfect combination of brute force and intelligence. Levi's eyes narrowed as he watched from a ridge. Even he's going to struggle with that one, he muttered, almost to himself. He could feel the subtle energy waves radiating off the Titan, a force beyond ordinary combat calculations, the kind that could level the valley if misjudged. Eren's heart pounded. He had seen Goku handle countless threats with ease, but this felt different. Every instinct screamed that even a Saiyan of unparalleled speed and power could be challenged. He's strong, but even he has limits. What if he goes too far? Eren whispered to Mikasa, whose eyes never left the battlefield. Goku landed softly, the dust settling around him. He measured the Titan carefully, observing its stance, its crystalline armor, and the subtle distortions in the air around it. His fists clenched lightly, energy rippling outward in anticipation. So, you're the combination of all they've feared, he said quietly, a hint of admiration in his voice. Interesting. Let's see what you can really do. The Titan charged, crystalline fists smashing into the ground, each impact sending shockwaves across the valley. Goku's eyes followed the trajectory with precision, ducking under debris, redirecting rubble with bursts of ki to avoid collateral damage. Yet every maneuver revealed a chilling truth. This was a Titan capable of learning mid-battle, adapting to his tactics almost instantly. Levi's hand rested on his sword's hilt, a rare tension crossing his normally stoic face. He's pushing him faster than I expected, and Goku isn't even going all out yet. Eren's chest tightened. If this thing reaches the village, it's over. Everyone dies. His fists clenched, the frustration and fear boiling inside him. He had been trained to fight Titans, to push back against forces beyond reason. But this was something entirely new. Even hope seemed fragile under the weight of this power. Goku dodged another swing, feeling the subtle pull of the founding Titan's influence, memories, emotions, and instincts that reached beyond the physical. Every strike he avoided, every leap he made, required a combination of raw power and acute calculation. For the first time since arriving in this world, Goku felt the sharp edge of limitation. Limits, interesting, Goku murmured, observing the Titan's adaptations. He realized this battle could not be won by strength alone. It demanded strategy, timing, and restraint. Everything he had learned in countless battles across worlds. Yet restraint was dangerous here. A single misstep could result in devastation beyond measure. Eren's voice cracked as he yelled, "Goku, don't hold back. If you do, this thing will destroy everything we've built." Goku's eyes met his, calm yet piercing. "I won't hold back, but I also won't destroy what doesn't need to be destroyed. There's a line I don't cross lightly. You need to trust that." The Titan's next assault shattered the nearby cliffside, sending boulders rolling like deadly projectiles. Goku's aura flared golden, and for the first time, a flash of Super Saiyan power brushed the edges of the battlefield. The ground beneath him quivered as he met the Titan blow for blow, energy against crystal, strength against strategy. Levi's voice cut through the chaos. He's going to be tested, truly tested, for the first time here. And if he falters, the consequences will be unimaginable. The clash intensified, each strike shaking the valley, each movement a calculated risk. Goku realized that in this world, the rules were different. Titans could not be crushed with simple force. Human and Titan ingenuity intertwined, creating challenges that demanded more than raw strength. Even he, the Saiyan warrior, had to evolve mid-battle, sensing, adapting, and recalibrating his attacks with precision he had never needed before. And in the heart of the battlefield, as dust and energy swirled around him, one chilling question settled over every observer. How far will Goku go when a single Titan, infused with powers no human or Saiyan had ever faced, can threaten entire cities? The valley fell into tense silence, save for the occasional clash of crystal and ki, as all eyes, human and Titan alike, waited for the next move, knowing that the first true test of Goku's restraint and adaptability had only just begun. The wind carried an uneasy chill across wall rows as dusk settled over the shattered plains. Smoke rose from distant ruins where Titans had clashed with human ingenuity, and the faint glimmer of Goku's energy lingered in the shadows like a silent storm waiting to break. Within the walls, whispers traveled faster than any soldier, faster than any Titan. A warrior of unimaginable strength had arrived. Some saw hope, others fear, but a few saw opportunity. Inside a dimly lit council room, a group of soldiers huddled, exchanging furtive glances. Their uniforms were spotless, but their intentions were anything but. "If we can sway him," one murmured, voice low and dangerous, "we could end the Marley threat without sacrificing another scout. We could control him, bend him to our will." Armin, perched near a window overlooking the training fields, had been quietly observing the unusual behavior of certain soldiers. Their hesitation, their subtle cues. Something didn't sit right. He narrowed his eyes, heart pounding. "They're trying to manipulate him," he whispered to Mikasa. "They think Goku is just another weapon to wield. They don't understand. He's not like us. He won't bend to politics." Mikasa's hand tightened around the hilt of her sword. Her eyes scanned the horizon, every shadow, every movement, a potential threat. "And if they succeed?" she asked quietly, voice low but sharp. Even a small betrayal could trigger a chain reaction we can't contain. Entire cities, maybe even the walls themselves. Outside, Goku stood near the edge of the training grounds, energy coalescing around him like liquid light. He was unaware of the scheme unfolding inside the walls, yet his senses, honed through countless battles across worlds, tingled with an odd disturbance. Something in the air felt wrong. Subtle manipulations of intention, the faintest echoes of deceit, the hunger for power masked as strategy. Armin and Mikasa exchanged a look, the weight of urgency pressing down on them. "We have to warn him," Armin said. "If he's going to trust humanity at all, he needs to know the truth. Otherwise..." He trailed off, swallowing the fear threatening to rise. Otherwise, the world could descend into chaos before any lessons are learned. Levi, observing from a nearby ridge, made no move. His expression was impassive, but his mind calculated the consequences of interference. "If Goku senses betrayal," he muttered under his breath, "anyone trying to manipulate him will regret it. There's no middle ground with a being like that. You either act with honor, or you die." Inside the council room, the conspirators prepared their approach. They had studied Goku's behavior during the Titan engagements. His restraint, his fascination with human ingenuity, his respect for life. They believed they could appeal to his admiration for courage and strategy to bend him to their will. A dangerous gamble, but one they felt necessary to secure Paradis' future. Goku's eyes flickered, scanning the walls and training grounds. Something was off. Not hostile in the traditional sense, but a subtle misalignment of intentions he could sense through the faint vibrations in the air. He took a step forward, energy flowing around him, golden aura flickering like a candle in the wind. "Someone here doesn't fight for what they believe. They fight for what they want," he said softly, almost to himself. Armin raced toward him, shouting over the wind, "Goku, there's a plot. Inside the walls. Some of our own soldiers are trying to manipulate you." Goku's head turned slowly, eyes narrowing with the calm intensity of a predator. "Manipulate me? That's a dangerous game, even for humans." Mikasa's voice joined, urgent and fierce. "If they succeed, it won't just be politics. They could start a war with no control over the consequences. Titans, walls, innocent lives." The golden aura around Goku flared, subtle but undeniable, sending a ripple through the valley below. The conspirators froze, sensing that their careful plan had been detected. The air vibrated with a tension so thick it could cut steel. Goku's gaze swept across them, calm but unyielding. "I don't fight people who lie and scheme," he said. "I fight those who challenge me with honesty. And if anyone tries to hurt the innocent using my strength, they'll regret it." A sudden gust of wind slammed doors and scattered papers inside the council room. The soldiers' confidence faltered as the reality set in. Goku did not understand politics. He did not bend to ambition, and yet the consequences of testing him could be catastrophic. Eren, watching from the ridge with clenched fists, felt his own heart pound. "This world, it's fragile," he muttered. "Even with Goku here, one misstep, one betrayal, and everything we fight for could be destroyed." The valley fell silent, the golden aura of the Saiyan a beacon of judgment. Every eye, human and Titan alike, now understood the razor-thin line between survival and annihilation. And one question lingered, heavy and unforgiving. Can Goku discern friend from foe in a web of human ambition? And will the first betrayal spark a chain reaction no one can contain? The smoke from the battlefield still lingered in the valley's outside wall rows, curling around collapsed buildings and shattered cobblestone streets. Goku hovered just above the ground, golden aura faintly glowing, eyes scanning the remnants of conflict. Despite the devastation, there were signs of life. Small clusters of civilians huddled amidst ruins, clutching children, praying silently for another day. For the first time, Goku felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, not just as a warrior, but as someone capable of altering the fate of this fragile world. He had fought countless battles across countless universes, but never had he faced an entire civilization teetering on the edge between survival and annihilation. Goku, Armin's voice trembled as he approached, his eyes wide. These people, if the Titans come back, or if the fight escalates, no one here can survive on their own. Goku's gaze softened. I know, he replied quietly, and I won't let them suffer if I can prevent it. But he hesitated, sensing the delicate balance of power around him. Even a single misstep could destroy more than the Titans ever could. Even the best intentions can have consequences that are impossible to control. Eren, standing nearby, watched Goku with clenched fists, teeth gritted, the golden aura, the calm yet unshakable confidence. It infuriated him. Why are they important to you? Eren snapped, voice rising. We've been fighting for years to protect humanity, and you show compassion for these people as if you're their savior, but you don't belong here. Goku tilted his head, considering Eren's words. I don't belong. Maybe not, he said, but if I can help, if I can prevent even one life from being lost, then I'm meant to be here, at least for now. The tension between them was palpable, a clash not of fists, but of ideals. Eren's jaw tightened. He had faced Titans, enemies who could destroy everything he loved. And yet this stranger wielded a power that dwarfed even the most terrifying Titans. And unlike them, Goku seemed untouchable, untamed, and utterly unpredictable. Mikasa stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on Eren's shoulder. You can't let jealousy cloud your judgment, she said softly. Goku isn't replacing anyone. He's here to fight alongside us, to protect what we can't always save alone. You need to see that before it's too late. But Eren could not calm himself. He turned away, pacing as the sun dipped lower, shadows stretching long and ominous. If he's this strong, what happens if he fails? Or worse, what if he decides humans aren't worth saving? We're at the mercy of someone who doesn't even understand our world. Meanwhile, Goku had descended into the village, moving cautiously but decisively to assist those in immediate danger. He lifted debris with superhuman speed, created safe paths for fleeing civilians, and even intercepted a stray Titan that had wandered too close, sending it crashing into a distant valley. A young child, no older than 10, looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. Are you a god? The child whispered. Goku crouched, offering a reassuring smile. I'm just someone who doesn't want anyone hurt, he said simply. You don't need to be afraid. Watching this, Armin felt a pang of hope, but also unease. Even with Goku's power, the smallest mistakes could trigger catastrophe. And if Eren acted impulsively, the situation could spiral out of control. Eren's hands shook as he watched Goku protect the civilians. Why him? He muttered under his breath. Why not me? Why can't I do more? Goku sensed the unspoken tension, the jealousy, the fear, the burden of responsibility on Eren's shoulders. He understood instinctively. Eren's struggle was not just physical, but emotional. And in this world, the heart often proved to be as dangerous as any titan or weapon. A sudden tremor shook the valley. From the horizon, a massive shadow approached, its form jagged and ominous. Even Goku's senses tensed. The energy radiating from it hinted at power rivaling the Titan he had faced before, yet somehow different, more unpredictable, more dangerous. Goku rose, aura flaring bright gold, his eyes scanning the horizon. Civilians froze, clutching one another, while scouts scrambled to prepare. Eren's chest heaved with anxiety and unresolved frustration. Goku's compassion had just been put to the ultimate test. And in that instant, everyone, human and Saiyan alike, felt it. Could Goku's heart alone prevent destruction when forces beyond comprehension were about to collide with innocent lives? Or would the consequences of caring be the spark that ignites an uncontrollable inferno? The sun had dipped below the jagged horizon, casting the valley in shades of crimson and shadow. The air was thick with tension, heavy with the residue of battle and the unspoken fears of those who had survived. Goku stood atop a crumbling watchtower, golden aura flickering faintly as he observed the scouts below. Every movement, every expression told him more about humanity than any fight could. Eren's fists were clenched, knuckles white, eyes burning with frustration and defiance. He had watched Goku's restraint, the careful, deliberate avoidance of unnecessary destruction, and it had ignited something deep within him, a mixture of envy, anger, and fear. "You can't just float above it all," Eren shouted, stepping forward, voice echoing across the valley. "People are dying. Titans are still out there. You can't solve this with kindness." Goku's gaze remained calm, unwavering. "Kindness isn't weakness," he replied steadily, voice carrying across the winds. "I don't have to destroy everything to protect people. Strength isn't just about power. It's about knowing when to use it." Armin stepped between them, hands raised, voice trembling with urgency. "Eren, listen. He's not our enemy. He's trying to prevent more bloodshed. We have to consider that maybe, just maybe, there's another way." Mikasa's eyes scanned the edges of the valley, wary of Titan movements, but her focus remained on the ideological battle unfolding. "Eren," she said softly, yet sharply, "don't let anger cloud your judgment. Goku's power is beyond anything we've ever known. If we lose our unity over ideals, we all die." Eren shook his head, rage and desperation colliding within him. "Unity? Unity won't stop the Titans. Power stops the Titans. If we hesitate, if we hold back, this world dies. You don't understand. You've never lived with this constant threat." Goku shifted slightly, landing lightly on the stone beneath him. The ground trembled faintly, a subtle warning of the energy coiled within him. "I understand more than you think," he said quietly. "I've seen worlds fall. I've seen people lose everything. But I've also learned that power without control, without heart, leads to nothing but destruction. You're risking everything by thinking the only way to survive is through fear and domination." Eren's voice rose, a mixture of desperation and conviction. "Fear and domination. That's what keeps people alive. If you think mercy and restraint are enough, then you're just another bystander. I won't watch humanity fall because of ideals that don't work in reality." The scouts around them murmured, tension rippling through the ranks. Some glanced toward Goku, awe and fear in their eyes, while others looked at Eren, torn between loyalty and pragmatism. Even Levi, standing a short distance away, remained silent, observing every shift in energy, every crack in the fragile peace of the moment. Goku took a deep breath, letting his aura pulse brighter, but not aggressively. "Eren," he said, voice low but carrying weight, "I'm not asking you to surrender your beliefs. I'm asking you to see that there's more than one way to protect the people you care about. Power alone won't save them if it consumes you in the process." Eren's jaw tightened. His entire body trembled with the need to prove himself, to assert that survival demanded ruthless pragmatism. "And what if kindness fails?" he demanded. "What if mercy isn't enough, and everyone dies because we didn't act decisively?" Goku's expression softened, a quiet understanding in his eyes. "Then we fight harder, but smarter, together. You don't have to face this alone." A faint rumble shook the valley, drawing everyone's gaze to the horizon. Dust and debris swirled in the wind, a shadow forming. A titan moving with unnatural speed, drawn to the energy converging in the valley. The sudden threat underscored the fragile balance of their argument. Ideology and emotion were not just abstract concepts. They could dictate who lived and who died. Armin's voice broke the rising tension. Look, it's coming. We don't have time for... Goku leapt forward, energy flaring, golden aura streaming behind him like a comet. I'll handle this, he said firmly. But even as he prepared to intercept, his gaze flickered back to Eren. Your ideals, your drive. It's powerful, but unchecked. It can destroy more than Titans ever could. Eren's eyes locked with Goku's, a mixture of fear, respect, and defiance simmering within them. The ideological storm between them had reached a breaking point. The scouts, civilians, and even Titans now hung in the balance, awaiting the next action. And in that moment, one question thundered louder than the approaching Titan. Who will sway the other first? The Saiyan with a heart that cannot kill indiscriminately, or the human consumed by the ruthless pragmatism of survival? And who will ignite a conflict that no one can contain? The valley had become a graveyard of shattered stone and twisted metal. Smoke hung like a suffocating veil, curling over collapsed rooftops and strewn debris. Titans roamed unchecked, their monstrous forms blotting out the dimming sun, while the surviving civilians huddled behind what remained of walls and barricades. The air was thick with the stench of fear, blood, and the eerie silence of devastation. Goku stood amidst the chaos, his golden aura flickering like wildfire. He had restrained himself long enough, had carefully measured his power to avoid catastrophe. But the destruction he witnessed now was beyond anything his sense of justice could tolerate. Families crushed under rubble, children swept aside by rampaging titans, soldiers overwhelmed by forces that no human weapon could match. Every life lost reverberated in his chest like a drumbeat of fury. A low rumble rolled through the valley. Goku's aura pulsed violently, stretching the limits of the air itself. His eyes glowed gold, pupils narrowed, energy crackling in electric arcs. He clenched his fists, teeth gritted, not in rage alone, but in sorrow and responsibility. No more, he whispered, voice shaking with intensity. No one else has to die because of monsters. From the shadows, Levi observed silently, chest tight. Even he, the most disciplined soldier alive, could feel the weight of Goku's growing power. Every muscle in his body tensed as he calculated the risk. If he loses control, Levi murmured to himself, we won't just lose a few lives. We'll lose everything we've fought to protect. Eren, meanwhile, stared at Goku with a mixture of desperation and envy. He had fought Titans with everything he had sacrificed and killed to ensure humanity's survival. But now he faced a being whose strength eclipsed his own in ways he could scarcely comprehend. I won't be overshadowed, Eren shouted, transforming partially into his Titan form, energy and rage coalescing into a towering silhouette. I am humanity's sword. I will not let a stranger dictate our fate. Goku's golden hair lifted slightly, aura expanding outward in waves that rattled the very earth beneath their feet. His voice rang out across the battlefield, calm yet thunderous, carrying both warning and conviction. Eren, he said, tone firm, you're strong, but you're blinded by anger. Strength without control destroys everything you care about. Don't let hatred dictate your choices. The first Titan lunged from the rubble, massive fists smashing into stone, oblivious to the humans in its path. Goku moved faster than sight could follow, intercepting the creature mid-strike. The impact sent shockwaves across the valley, flattening nearby structures, scattering debris, and forcing the humans to their knees. Even Levi had to brace himself against the force. Armin's voice trembled as he shouted, Goku, careful. The more you push, the more destruction. But Goku had already crossed a line. The rage at innocent lives lost, combined with his deep instinct to protect, had unlocked a surge of power beyond any prior restraint. Energy erupted around him, a blinding golden storm that illuminated the valley, creating long, flickering shadows that danced across the carnage. Titans froze mid-stride, sensing the shift, while humans shielded their eyes, awe and terror intermingled. Eren's Titan form roared, stepping toward Goku with a mix of defiance and fear. "You think this will save anyone? You can't control it. You're a force of destruction." Goku hovered, energy pulsing like a heartbeat. "I control it because I have to," he said, voice low but carrying the weight of universes. "I fight for life, not for dominance. But if anyone threatens the innocent, I will not hold back." The ground quaked beneath their feet. Stones cracked, walls trembled, and a distant plume of smoke rose as a small outpost was swallowed by energy waves from Goku's aura. Civilians screamed, Titans scattered, and even the scouts felt the fragile balance of survival tipping dangerously. Levi's eyes narrowed, calculating, heart pounding. Collateral damage. Unavoidable at this scale. But if Goku unleashes full strength, there may be nothing left to save. Eren's fists slammed together, a surge of Titan energy radiating from him in response. "I'll stop him if I have to," he shouted, rage and desperation intertwining. "I can't let humanity bow to a stranger, no matter how powerful." And as the first real confrontation of unstoppable force versus human determination loomed, one question burned across the valley, louder than cries, explosions, and the tremors of power itself. Can humanity endure when the scales tip toward a power no one, not Titans, not walls, not soldiers, can hope to match? Or will the Super Saiyan surge mark the beginning of a force that cannot be restrained? The valley had become unrecognizable, a shattered expanse of stone, splintered trees, and smoldering wreckage. Smoke and dust hung heavy, masking the sun as Titans roamed, their roars echoing like war drums. Humanity's defenses were stretched to the breaking point. Walls crumbled, and the desperate cries of civilians blended with the metallic groans of collapsing buildings. Goku hovered above the chaos, golden aura flaring, his hair lifting in the charged wind. Every surge of energy from his body was measured yet unstoppable, a perfect storm of power and precision. He had restrained himself until now, but the casualties, the fear, the helplessness, it had ignited a determination that transcended restraint. On the horizon, Marley's ultimate plan revealed itself. A fusion of Titan powers unlike anything Paradis had ever faced moved into position. The colossal, armored, and Warhammer Titans combined in a coordinated assault, their massive forms merging into a single, horrifying colossus, pulsating with energy and intellect. The air vibrated with anticipation and dread. Eren's eyes blazed as he stepped forward, partially transformed, leading a counterattack. "This is our chance," he shouted, determination radiating from him. "We fight, not just to survive, but to show that humanity will not bow to strangers, no matter their strength." His Titan form roared, fists smashing the ground, sending tremors across the battlefield. Levi darted between rubble and fleeing civilians, blades flashing with lethal precision. "Keep the civilians out of the line of fire," he commanded, voice steady despite the chaos. Beside him, Mikasa moved like a shadow, cutting down Titans and guiding survivors. "We can't let them die while Goku and Eren clash," she said, determination hardening her features. Every step, every swing of her blade was calculated, protective. Humanity's shield amid an overwhelming storm. Goku's gaze fixed on the approaching fusion Titan. He landed with a thunderous shockwave, energy rippling outward, tossing debris and Titans alike. His eyes narrowed as he assessed the threat, measuring the combined power and coordination. "This isn't just brute force," he muttered, recognizing the intelligence behind the coordinated movements. "They're using strategy and desperation." The fusion Titan swung its colossal fists, each strike capable of leveling a city block. Goku dodged with impossible speed, each movement a blur, countering with precise strikes, that dented but did not destroy. The valley shook as fists collided with fists, energy meeting energy. For every step forward humanity took, the battlefield seemed to fight them back, titans smashing stone and earth alike. Eren roared, surging forward with a flurry of punches, desperate to assert control. "You think this will stop us?" he shouted to Goku, who paused briefly, studying the human resolve burning in the young warrior's eyes. "I'm not trying to stop you," Goku replied calmly, almost gently. "I'm trying to make sure no one else dies unnecessarily." The clash intensified. Titans slammed into Goku's energy blasts. Buildings collapsed under the combined weight of their struggle, and Levi and Mikasa raced through debris, protecting civilians and holding the line. The air was thick with dust and tension, and every observer felt the weight of the impossible confrontation. A massive shockwave erupted as Goku propelled himself at the fusion titan, striking it with measured fury. Yet even as the colossal figure staggered, it adapted, coordinating its movements with precision, using intelligence and size to push Goku to the limits of his endurance. Eren's titan tried to intervene, punching from the opposite side, but even he realized the scale of the threat. The ground beneath them cracked, and the valley seemed to tremble as if the earth itself was terrified. Armin, watching from a ridge, shouted, "Goku, he's pushing himself, harder than ever, but the fusion titan isn't stopping, it's learning." His words carried both awe and fear. Humanity's ultimate defense, a living weapon designed to crush an unstoppable force, was proving more dangerous than anyone anticipated. The clash reached a terrifying stalemate. Energy rippled outward from Goku. Titans staggered and roared, and the humans' morale wavered under the sheer scale of destruction. Every moment stretched into eternity. The line between survival and annihilation blurred. And as dust and debris swirled violently across the battlefield, one looming question thundered louder than the roar of titans or the pulse of Goku's energy. Will the combined might of titans and human strategy finally challenge the Saiyan's godlike strength? Or is humanity about to witness a force that even the most desperate defense cannot contain? The battlefield lay in ruins. Smoke choked the sky, and the groans of injured titans mixed with the cries of terrified civilians. Dust swirled in thick clouds, cutting visibility to mere meters, while jagged remnants of walls and buildings littered the ground like broken teeth. Even in this chaos, Goku hovered, golden aura blazing, energy crackling like a storm waiting to break. His eyes, fierce yet contemplative, scanned the devastation with a heavy heart. Armin's mind raced. Every strategy he had considered seemed hopeless against a Saiyan of Goku's caliber. Direct attacks were futile. The fusion titans had been repelled, the walls of humanity's defenses crumbling under the sheer scale of power. And yet Armin knew one thing. Brute force alone would never win this battle. It would take cunning, timing, and, most painfully, sacrifice. "Listen carefully," Armin instructed, voice tense as he gathered a small group of the bravest soldiers, including Mikasa and Jean. "We can't beat him head on, but we can create a diversion, a calculated risk. Some of us will need to put our lives on the line to open an opportunity. It's the only way to make him hesitate, to find a weak point." Mikasa's eyes flashed, hand tightening around her blades. "We're already stretched thin. And civilians." She glanced at the trembling survivors huddled behind ruins. "If we fail," her voice trailed, the weight of unspoken fears pressing down. "Failure is unacceptable," Jean interjected, "but this is the only way. We've already seen what happens when Goku fights unchecked. We need to force a choice, make him see what's truly at stake." Meanwhile, Goku had paused midair, sensing the subtle shifts in the battlefield. He could feel the tension, the desperation, the sheer will of humans risking themselves, not out of malice, but out of hope. His compassionate instincts flared. He knew they were not enemies. They were fighters desperate to protect what they loved. And that awareness gave him pause, slowing his movements ever so slightly. From the rubble, a squadron of soldiers launched their diversion. Explosives detonated. Titans were momentarily distracted, and debris rained across the valley. Civilians were guided to safety by Levi and Mikasa, who moved with uncanny precision, every swing of their blades both protective and lethal. But the cost was immediate. One soldier was struck by a stray Titan blow, another crushed under a falling wall. The human toll was clear, and even the bravest faltered under the sight. Eren's Titan form surged beside the group, shaking the earth with each step. I won't let them die in vain," he roared, slamming a fist into the ground, creating tremors that destabilized the fusion Titan's footing. But even he realized the limitation of raw force against a Saiyan who could move faster than the eye could follow. His desperation mirrored Armin's own internal battle. How to balance caution with action when the stakes were nothing less than total annihilation. Goku's aura flared higher as he dodged collapsing debris, his golden hair streaking through the smoke. He noticed the sacrifices, the soldiers throwing themselves into harm's way not to harm him, but to shield innocence. That selflessness stirred something in him, something beyond admiration, a profound respect for humanity's resilience. But with each life risked, he understood the precarious line between mercy and catastrophe. Armin's plan unfolded with precision. Using the chaos as cover, he led a small strike team to flank the fusion Titan, aiming to exploit its mechanical coordination. Each step required courage, bordering on recklessness, every moment measured against the ticking clock of Goku's awareness. Hearts raced, breaths came shallow, and the valley itself seemed to hold its breath. As the diversion reached its apex, Goku's eyes locked on Armin and the soldiers risking themselves. In that split second, the battlefield became a crucible of morality and strategy. He could intervene, crush the Titans, and end the immediate threat, but at what cost to the humans risking everything in front of him? And then came the turning moment. A Titan charged directly at the civilians, its grotesque form moving faster than anyone anticipated. Mikasa leapt into the path, cutting down limbs with precision, but it was not enough. In a flash, Goku reacted, his energy enveloping the area in a controlled blast, shielding the innocents and flattening the attacking Titan. The human sacrifices had created the opening, but it was compassion and his restraint that preserved the lives that mattered most. As smoke cleared, the survivors stared, awe and fear intertwined, at the golden warrior who now understood both their desperation and their courage. Yet in the distance, the fusion Titan regained balance, energy crackling ominously, signaling that the battle was far from over. And in that moment, one question lingered over the battlefield, heavier than any roar or explosion. Who will survive the sacrifices made today? And what price will victory demand when humanity risks everything to test the limits of a godlike warrior? The battlefield, once a roaring chaos of titans and explosions, now lay in an uneasy silence. Smoke still curled into the sky, and the broken earth trembled faintly from the recent clashes. Goku hovered above it all, golden aura flickering like the dying light of a storm, his chest rising and falling with deliberate calm. For the first time, the Saiyan had paused, not out of hesitation, but contemplation. Below him, humans and titans alike stood battered, exhausted, yet defiant. Eren's Titan form towered, scarred and bruised, but eyes blazing with unbroken spirit. Levi and Mikasa scanned the perimeter, weapons lowered, yet alert. Even the fusion Titan, once an unstoppable colossus, trembled with fatigue, pulling back slowly under the unseen gravity of Goku's presence. Armin, panting, approached cautiously, every step a testament to survival. "Goku, you could have ended it all," he said, voice tinged with awe and fear. "Every one of us could have been gone in a heartbeat. Why did you stop?" Goku's expression softened, a rare mixture of understanding and restraint. "Because," he began, voice calm but resonant. You didn't just fight me with weapons or titans. You fought with courage, with hope, with heart. That is something even a Saiyan can respect. His golden hair glinted against the smoky sky, aura pulsating in rhythm with his heartbeat. I could destroy everything in an instant, yes, but I see your will. I see your fight, and that matters. Eren's Titan crouched lower, almost as if shrinking under the weight of this admission. Rage and relief tangled in his expression, his voice cracking. You're not like anyone I've ever faced. You could have wiped us out, and his words broke, leaving a tense silence. Levi stepped forward, blade sheathed, eyes narrow but calculating. Don't mistake restraint for weakness, he warned. Goku, you're strong beyond measure, but the world you've stepped into, it isn't just about fighting. Every action has consequences. Even mercy can tip the balance. Goku nodded, acknowledging the wisdom in Levi's caution. He scanned the battlefield again, noting the civilians who had survived the sacrifices, the soldiers who had risked everything, and the Titans, both independent and fused, now retreating into the shadows. Every choice humanity had made, every gamble, every desperate act had shaped the outcome. Historia and Armin exchanged glances. So, he can be reasoned with, Historia whispered, hope barely contained. Or is this just another pause before catastrophe? Goku's voice cut through the lingering tension. I've made my choice, for now. I will not annihilate, not today. But understand this, he said, voice firm, the air trembling around him. This world is fragile. If the cycle of hatred continues, if the same mistakes are repeated, restraint has a limit. I will intervene again, in whatever way is necessary to prevent true destruction. Eren's Titan lowered fully to the ground, a mixture of relief and frustration etched across his features. So, this is a chance, a test, not just for me, but for all of us. His voice carried both challenge and reflection, the fiery determination that had defined him tempered by newfound understanding. Levi exhaled, tension easing slightly from his shoulders. Then, the next step falls on us, he said. We rebuild, we strategize, and we survive. But we never forget that power like this exists. That the world can be ended in moments if we falter. The Fusion Titan, sensing the shift in momentum, retreated with a groaning wail, pulling away from the center of the battlefield. Even Titans under Marley's control seemed to hesitate, following the instincts of their human operators. Marley's forces, previously poised for exploitation or further attack, now faced uncertainty, wondering if this golden warrior was a friend, a guardian, or a force they could never fully predict. Goku descended, landing softly amidst the remnants of battle, aura dimming to a gentle golden glow. He met Eren's gaze, then Mikasa's, and finally Levi's. In each he saw a reflection of humanity's resilience, its capacity for hope, for courage, and for moral complexity. And yet the air remained charged with unspoken tension. For all the restraint Goku showed, the consequences of his presence were only beginning to ripple across this fragile world. Every leader, soldier, and civilian felt it. The turning point had arrived, but it was not the end. As the wind carried dust and ash across the broken valley, a single thought loomed over the survivors and the Saiyan alike. Will Goku's mercy truly reshape a world built on fear and blood? Or is this pause merely a countdown to a reckoning that no one can escape? The sun rose over Paradis Island, casting a pale light on the scars left by the recent chaos. The battlefield, once a maelstrom of titans, humans, and godlike energy, was now eerily quiet. Broken walls, scorched earth, and the remnants of shattered titans littered the landscape, a stark reminder of how fragile this world truly was. The echoes of Goku's golden aura lingered, faint as a heartbeat, yet powerful enough to make the ground itself seem alive. Goku stood at the edge of the forest, the morning wind tousling his hair. His eyes scanned the horizon, absorbing the resilience and courage of the humans he had witnessed. Every life risked, every choice made in desperation, every act of hope. It had been a lesson, a mirror reflecting the best and worst of humanity. For a moment, the Saiyan warrior allowed himself a small, rare smile. He had come as an unknown outsider, and yet he felt a bond with this strange world. Eren approached, still in Titan form, though his expression betrayed exhaustion more than pride. You could have wiped us out, he said, voice low but fierce. Why didn't you? Why spare us? Goku's gaze softened. Because you fought not just with strength, but with heart. You reminded me that power alone doesn't define a world. It's what you do with it. Your choices, your courage, your will, that shapes everything. Mikasa stood nearby, blades at her side but relaxed, eyes still wary. Even if we survived, the world won't forget. They'll fear you. Marley will fear you. And Titans. Titans may yet rise again. Yes, Goku admitted, his aura dimming. I won't always be here. The moment I leave, this world will face its consequences. But what I hope is that you've seen something today. Something worth protecting without needing me to fight for you. Levi stepped forward, expression unreadable. You've changed the game. That much is clear. But make no mistake, the balance here is fragile. One wrong move, one unchecked power, and everything could collapse. Goku nodded once. I understand. That's why I'm leaving now. My role isn't to govern your fate, but to remind you that there's always a choice. That sometimes restraint is stronger than destruction. As he prepared to depart, a golden gleam ignited around him, brighter than the morning sun. The air quivered, and the faint hum of energy resonated through the valley. Civilians peered from behind ruins, awe and fear mingling in their eyes. Children clutched their parents' hands, soldiers stood frozen, and even the Titans retreated silently, instinctively aware of the presence of a power they could never match. Armin stepped forward, voice trembling slightly. Will we ever see you again? He asked. Or was this a one-time intervention? Goku tilted his head, thoughtful. Maybe, maybe not. But if I come again, it won't be to fight. It'll be to see how you've grown, how you've learned to survive in a world that tests you at every turn. Eren's Titan form lowered fully to the ground, a mix of relief and uncertainty etched across his face. Then, it's up to us, he murmured. To live, to fight, and to protect what we've seen today. Not because of you, but because of us. Goku's smile widened slightly. Exactly. That's the lesson. And remember, power is meaningless without purpose. With that, he took a single step, then leapt into the sky. A streak of golden light arced over the island, leaving only a faint trail before vanishing beyond the horizon. The world held its breath, watching the impossible retreat into the unknown. Below, the survivors gathered. Politicians, soldiers, and citizens alike struggled to comprehend what had just occurred. Marley's spies reported back, eyes wide with fear, while Paradis leaders reconsidered every alliance, every strategy. A fragile peace now hung over the island, built not only on human strength, but on the memory of a warrior who could have ended everything. Yet even amid the relief, tension lingered. How would the world adapt to the knowledge that a godlike being had walked among them? How would Marley, Paradis, and even the Titans themselves recalibrate their power and politics in response? And perhaps the most pressing question of all, if Goku ever returned, would he be an ally, a judge, or something neither side could predict? The winds carried dust and distant echoes across Paradis, whispering the truth of a world forever changed. Goku had left, yet his presence remained, in the courage of the survivors, the fear of the oppressors, and the fragile hope that humanity might rise, not under power, but through choice. The world had survived the impossible, but the shadow of that golden warrior would linger, a reminder that the line between mercy and annihilation is as thin as the resolve of those who dare to fight.